Hey guys, Doc from the Gold Hog, and it's kind of spooky out here today because it's almost Halloween, and we'll be right back because we're taking you gold mining today. Hey guys, Doc from the Gold Hog, and today we're going to do a few different things. We're going to be doing some control testing on a Highbanker. We're going to talk about setting up your Highbanker, setting up the right pitch. We're going to show you how we do some of our control testing on our units. What else are we going to do today? I'm going to show you today an interesting sort of, I love the innovative ideas, and so last week we were out at the Loud Mine, good video to watch. And we were hitting these different levels of material, this real loose kind of material, real easy to run, just run it through the Highbanker. Then all of a sudden we hit a pocket of big clay, and we just couldn't break it down. So they were having to slow down the header boxes. So I'm going to talk about using a little bit of innovation and using your mind, and something that just came to me when, I don't know when it came to me, but I said, let me try this. So I'll show you something that I came up with for a header box. When you have a whole bunch of clay balls and stuff like that, way to slow it down and break it up. Alrighty, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how we do some of our controlled testing. Hello, Crow. And I'll show you the steps we're going to go through. We're going to go through a 3-step process. I'm going to show you how we define this, how we sort of set it up. But what guys are doing right now is the guys are over here setting up the Raptor Highbanker, and we're going to run material through the Raptor Highbanker. All the tailings that come off the Raptor are going to go through a 2-stage collection or settling system. So what I do is I use this long tub. It's going to fall into here. The majority of if there's any gold in the tailings, will be right here. But then I'm also going to have it hit a second tub over here again, and then discharge into the creek. We have to discharge into the creek in Georgia. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to take all this material, classify it down to 1/8 of an inch, and I'm setting up our gold cube over here. And we're going to run it to the gold cube. We're going to do a tailings test. Then I'm going to take all the tailings off the gold cube. Somewhere around here I got a multi-sluice. So what we're going to do is we're going to run it through the multi-sluice. And so we're going to do a sort of a 3-step process, checking all of our tailings, because I've got a lot of fine gold today. In this dirt, we're going to seed a little bit of this natural material. And I know for a fact that I've got at least 3 grams of sub 100 mesh gold. Really fine. Really flat stuff. The majority of this stuff came from either Canada or Alaska. So it's really fine and it's really flat stuff. It's a real challenge to catch. We're going to be adding black sand to this material. This material has a bunch of clay, has a lot of silt inside of it. We have slurry viscosity issues, so it's a real challenge. So anyways, we'll go over the testing data and how we do that more too. But I'm going to show you that little invention really cool on the header box. I love that thing. All right, so here's this little invention we're going to play with today that I came up with. I'm just thinking outside the box. Normally we run our header boxes pretty hot because we don't have a lot of clay balls to deal with. But last week we were hitting a lot of clay balls. So what I decided to do was just come up with, now this is all stuff I bought at Lowe's, and this is important to understand. We're not making these things. I just made this. This is just a 1/8 of an inch by 1/2 inch steel bar on 3 sides. 1, 2, and 3. And then I just bought, again at Lowe's, I bought some 1/4 inch steel bar rounds and just did a nasty kind of welding job here. It's not a bad welding job. Did kind of a welding job there. And so what's going to happen, we'll be able to dump material in here and it'll all be held up here. The big clay balls, the larger rocks, are all going to sit up here in this wash zone. Then when I'm done and when I want to, I can just lift this up, and everything will go out my header box. Really cool, especially if you have 1 or 2 people out here and you want to slow down your feed rate, maybe you have some real challenging heavy clay material. This is a great little thing. Again, we do not sell these. We do not make these. You can go to Lowe's and make this yourself. Find someone that has a welder and just make a little. I've just attached it with a couple of bolts here. Just sort of a little swing gate. Just dump the material in here, let it sit here, let that wash hit it, let that wash hit it. Once you feel that it's clean, open it up and let it all go out. Pretty cool little system. Because normally what we would do is, I would normally take this header box, if I wanted to slow down that rate, I would take my header box and I would drop it down a bit. Let the material sit in there and sort of in that pool and sort of scrub and scrub. But today I said, you know what, this might work. Just let it sit there by itself and sort of let it work, and then just lift the gate when I want those rocks to come up. And I'm going to go over the Highbanker in a minute. I've had some questions come up about the Raptor and how we set it up. And setting up a Highbanker, I'm going to show you that, and we'll go from there. All right, so one of the things about our flare units, our Raptor Flare and our Viper Flare unit, is this dual zone technology that I always talk about. It's kind of a fancy name for a change in sluice energy, a change in velocity, and I'll show you how we do this. We're going to be running a certain amount of water, probably about, probably about 5,000 gallons per hour on this pump. And we're going to run it through, the beginning of this sluice is about 8 inches. And so what I've done is our Raptor Highbanker comes with aggressive matting at the top. So this water is going to be deep. It's going to be about 1 inch deep, 1.25 inches deep. And I'm going to keep this top portion set at 12 degrees pitch. This is going to be really fast, really aggressive, very high exchange rate. Then what it's going to do is going to hit this settling zone. There's a bar under here, there's a flap here to sort of kill all the energy. Then we go down to our lower velocity matting, which is I've got Razorback and I've got Downdraft in here. And this is going to be set, this is at a 12 degree pitch today, and this is at a 6 degree pitch. So the principle being, I'm going to really scrub this material up here, really aggressive, really hit it hard, really moving fast, and then everything just sort of stops, and I have a completely different capture system. Now this is sort of the same philosophy that majority of the good commercial operations use. If you look at their systems, their plants, they either have some type of flare system, but the slurry changes. In other words, the slurry is exposed to varying velocities and varying capture zones. It's so important. If the gold doesn't get caught up in that first 36 inches, let's change it up and let's give it something different to go into. Now, let's talk about setting up a Highbanker. I'm just going to show the Raptor as we sort of set it up. One quick note on the Raptor. If you guys have a Raptor and you don't have a piece of hog moss up under here, let me know and I'll get you a piece of hog moss. I'm starting to put a piece of hog moss as a diffuser right there, because we're putting, especially when we put a lot of water through there. But one thing, the unit does not come with a piece of spa hose. This is a piece of spa hose. Last week or the week before, we came out, ran it, and I went lay flat directly into here. Sometimes you'll get that pinching that occurs in here. So what I'm doing is I use a piece of spa hose about 4 or 5 feet. Then I go to my lay flat hose. This also allows me to adjust this. I can move this and I won't have kinks in my lay flat. Now, the way I like to run this, I have 1.5 inch hose. This is a 1.5 inch plumbing system on the Raptor Flare, but I'm running a 2 inch pump. I just like to run 2 inch pumps reduced down. If you need a lighter pump, I show where you can use a smaller pump. But this is just a cheap, one of these cheap eBay pumps, you know, $160 or something. I've had this pump for 4 or 5 years, old reliable I call it. Just one of these cheap 2 inch semi-trash pumps. I have an intake screen covered because it's fall and you can see the leaves coming down. And then I do a reducer here, plus I put a ball valve, and that allows me total control over the system. If you're wondering about reducing it down on a pump, there's an article on our forum that dispels the myths of reducing a pump down on the outflow. You need to read that. Okay guys, I'm going to go ahead and show you real quickly what we're doing, how we're seeding this material. The important part about this when you're doing one of these controlled tests is you've got to run real material. You can't take sand and you can't take clean material and run it. You've got to use excavated, pay layer, whatever you're going to run, river gravels. That's what you need to run through your test. So how do you do that? Well, let me tell you how this is done. All right, so I've got real pay material here that we're going to be running. This is the normal kind of stuff, lots of clays, lots of silt. I've got some dredge concentrates here. Plus I've added in at least 5 grams of sub 100 mesh gold here, I would say. But I know that there's going to be over ½ an ounce total on this run. It's a lot of gold, a lot of black sand, a lot of clays. And so what we're doing is we're taking a layer. Ricky, go ahead and dump some of that dirt on there. So what we're doing is we're mixing in some of this normal excavated material. We'll put a layer of that, and then we're going to put a layer down of this seeded stuff. Then what we're going to do is we're going to mix it. So we're making a pile. We're probably going to run about a ½ yard test here. We're making a pile that has a lot of gold in it, a lot of black sand, but it's the natural occurring soil that it is. Now, here's the problem. The problem is that there's gold inside this natural material. That's why when you do a controlled test like this, there's only one way to do it. There's no other way to do this. The way to do that is to take what was captured in the sluice system and measure that percentage against what's in the tailings. You understand that? So I can't take, let's say, 5 grams of gold, put 5 grams of gold, because where's some of that gold? Well, some of that gold is going to get spilled on the ground. Some of the gold is going to not make it through the header box. It's going to be down over in here. Some of that gold is just going to whatever. So there's too many variables for losses. So the only way to do this test really is to run the material, see what went through the sluice, measure what's captured in the sluice versus what's captured in the tailings. Understand? So that's how you do a precise test. And when we work with commercial operations, it's the same thing. We have them do the same thing. We have them take a certain amount of their tailings, test the tailings compared to what was going in the material in the first place, that raw material up top. Then they can get a pretty good comprehension about what's my capture rate, what's my capture percentage. It's the same thing, whether you're running a small sluice or whether you're running a commercial operations. You've got to test what is caught up in here versus what's in my tailings. You've got to have that measurement. We've got the, here's how it's going to go. We're going to go from this unit, take all these tailings, go over to the gold cube, run it through the gold cube, then we're going to take those tailings, run them through the multi-sluice, just do a triple check here. But I wanted to show you the varying velocities. This is what I'm talking about. First of all, here's that real boiler action inside the header box. I've got a lot of water running through it. Water goes in here, pulls up behind that reverse ramp ripple, right up in here. Comes down. This is the aggressive section. Again, my water is fairly deep, and you can see how fast it's running. All of a sudden, it hits this deadening mat, and it flattens out, and I have a very smooth running sluice right in here. So this is that dual zone that I'm talking about. David, why don't you go ahead and let's put a scoop in. There's the destruction chamber. Show you this little gate action here. So there's rocks behind here. When I lift this up, all those rocks come out, and now you can see that they just shoot out down here. I want to try and get in on this reverse ramp ripple here, but all the water has to pause in this reverse ramp ripple section, and we'll catch a lot of gold sitting behind that reverse ramp ripple. Nuggets, rubies, we'll catch a lot of stuff back there, but it creates this deadening pool, this fluid bed back here. You can see how it's flooded. So you can see what I'm doing here. I actually turned this tub sideways, but I've got all my tailings are falling into this main tub. It's creating you can see what it's doing down here. creating a fluid bed in here, and then all that material is going into this big tub down here. Now we'll take all this, we'll classify it down to 1/8 of an inch, run it through the gold cube. So you can see this dirt here, it's just nasty clay stuff. Lots of clay, lots of silt, it'll just pack up in your hand. So we've got that all mixed in with concentrates, lots of black sand. So here's an important point too. We often do this, and I showed this, last week I showed this at the Loud Mine, and I was showing this to people. If you have a bunch of clays, we always put a big tub down here, and we let the clay sort of break up down here. It's just gonna sit here and break up, and then we'll take this sludge and we'll actually run it back through here. So after we're done running, we'll actually feed this. Matter of fact, I'll probably end up doing that right now. I want to show you some of this sludge. This sludge right here is just nasty, nasty stuff. And it's sitting down in here, breaking up. And we'll take that and we'll run it through the system again. All right, so here we are in shutdown. We ran, I'd say, probably half a yard of material. And you can see the mats really I don't have much as far as concentrates go inside the mats. Especially down here. You can see how bare the mats look right there. And then you can see I'm just completely full on these tubs. That tub is full. That tub is just about full. It's full of all kinds of black sand sitting down here. So, man, we got a job ahead of us. We got to get this done fast. So I'm not going to sit around talking. I take all this material, classify it to 1/8 of an inch. We're going to run it to the gold cube. And we're going to take that same crap and we're going to run it through those multi-slews. So we got to roll. All right, so I'm going to walk over there and give David some dirt. But the important thing is when you're classifying is fill up your bucket first. So just let the water run. You want to fill up your bucket first so the material sort of just dissolves inside of it. Some nasty stuff. All right, so let me explain how this reverse ramp riffle works. A lot of people get confused on this because it looks backwards to most people. So here is this reverse ramp riffle, and it actually goes in like this. So it actually sits inside here like this. So what it does is it creates a ramp like this that the water has to pull, come back over and go down. And so I just took it off, and you can see where the reverse ramp riffle was. It's right here. Now what we always find, if we ever have any large nuggets, we usually find them right behind here. If we have gemstones, we'll find a lot of gems and rubies and garnets, bigger stuff back over here. But we'll find a lot of, we've started adding this moss on the Raptors too now. It's a good diffuser. We'll find a lot of fine gold up in here underneath that. And then you can see, I don't know if you can see it, but there's really super fine gold, all just cram packed into these first few riffles in here. My goal is to be able to run nasty material, run at a high capture rate, I mean, run at a fairly high feed rate and be above 98% capture. That's where I want to be on a normal piece of field equipment, on a piece of prospecting equipment. 98% is great for me. All right, so I got this lower mat out. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and keep this lower mat con separate from the upper mat cons. And this is the very last section here. And the good news is I'm struggling to see gold in these last two sections of the mat. But when I come up to the top over here, I see lots of gold. I'm seeing lots of fine gold in these upper two mats. Let's see if I can get this on camera, but this is right at that deadening point. This is right at that deadening point. Let's see if I can get the camera to focus on this. But these UR strips right in here, these are just absolutely packed with gold. That's kind of what I want to show you. Okay, so here we are. Now what we're doing is we classified all of our tailings, classified them down to 1/8 of an inch, and we're running it to the gold cube. We're going to catch those tailings down there, and we're going to run it to the multi-sluice. Again, I've got a lot of gold. I've got over an ounce of gold. So I want to run all this through 3 different stations. I want an accurate testing. I want to see what was accurately in there lost. Okay, so before we start all this panning and testing and weighing and all that kind of stuff, let me fill you in on a couple of numbers for this data that I'm using. I took close to an ounce of gold and screened it 20 mesh. So I have probably 30 mesh down to 150 mesh, an ounce of gold in that range. So you understand that. If you don't understand, the 20 mesh screen is, I don't know, what is it, like a 1/16 of an inch or smaller. So I've got small gold down to extremely fine gold, 1 ounce of that. Then I took an additional probably 3 or 4 grams of super fine gold, sub 100 mesh. So I'm probably 120 down to 200 mesh gold. Another 3 or 4 grams of that. Mixed it all in. So I've got over an ounce of gold, all small, because large gold, if I have any large pieces of gold, what are they going to do? They're going to skew my results because I'm going by weight. So anything that's over, even if it came out of this material, if it's anything that looks big, I'm going to take it out of the final weigh-in so that I have an accurate result on my fine gold capture. You understand that? So just so you understand how the volume of gold that I'm working with here. Here's the next thing. If you're looking at piece counts, I want you to grasp this concept. Piece counts. If I put in, let's say, 4 grams of sub 100 mesh gold, how many pieces of 100 mesh gold or sub 100 mesh gold in a gram? There's roughly 22,000 pieces. Let me say that again. Roughly 20 to 22,000 pieces of sub 100 mesh gold in 1 gram of gold. So if I run 1 gram of gold, that gold through my sluice, and I have a 1% loss rate, how many pieces should be in my tailings? 200 pieces. Understand that. Again, 20,000 pieces of gold go through my sluice, 1% loss, I should have 200 pieces of gold in my tailings. If I'm running 4 grams, that's 200 times 4, I should have 800 pieces of sub 100 mesh gold in my tailings to have phenomenal results. And a lot of people can't grasp that concept. A 1% loss based on 80,000 pieces of sub 100 mesh gold will be 800 pieces in my tailings. That's the kind of stuff that you really have to get the hand on. It's all about numbers. If you understand the numbers, things become very clear, okay? So before we start all this panning and stuff, I'm going to show you, I want you to understand the volume of gold, well over an ounce of gold, tons of it. I would say at least 30% of it is 100 mesh or smaller gold. Now let's go ahead and let's take a look. As I'm getting ready to pan out, I'm going to show you that lower section of the matting. That's that of the Raptor Highbanker. I'm going to show you what was caught in the lower section of that Highbanker. Okay, so here's that lower section. I've panned it down, not too carefully. Use that inertia, just tap, 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 tap. Bring it down. Let me spread it out for you. But I'm going to show you what was caught in that lower section. Alright, so here's that lower section. You can see what I'm talking about with this super, super fine gold. Alright, so what I've done is I've pulled this upper mat out, and this piece of moss is behind the reverse ramp riffle. And then, so I've moved that moss down to reveal, and you can see what happens here. There's just absolutely packed in here with gold. Underneath that moss, it acts as a diffuser. And I'm just absolutely loaded in here. Okay, so this may be one of the most important points of this video, so I want to get it on camera. Here's the very, very top of our sluice, okay? Very top of our system. I have a piece of moss that sits over talon mat up here. And then we have the reverse ramp riffle that sits here. Now, here's what I want you to see. Look at, I'll just let it talk. Look at all that gold. That's in that reverse ramp riffle. It is just absolutely slammed with gold. Look at it right there. Just washing it down. Look at all that gold in there. That is cool. Again, this is the reverse, right? Very top 4 inches of our sluice system. That is just too cool. All right, so I got my mats cleaned out. I'm running out of time. We're having to hurry a little bit. So here is the total concentrates. These are the total cons. Running half a yard of material, over an ounce of gold. It's all sitting right in this can from those mats. That's everything I had right there. Pretty cool. All right, so I'm stopping what I'm doing for a second so I can show you. We broke down this gold cube. We've got this massive tub of tailings over here. And what we're going to do now is slowly what we're going to do is we're just going to run that real quick through the multi-sluice over here. These are all the tailings that came out of the gold cube. So now we're going to do another test. Again, I have a ton of gold. I have over an ounce of gold, lots of it, 30% of it's sub 100 mesh. So we're going to run it through the multi-sluice. Okay, so it's been through the Highbanker, it's been through the gold cube. Now we've run it to the multi-sluice. And it's tough to see, but I would say in here it's really, really fine stuff. I'd say we have probably about 50 to 75 colors. But it's real tiny stuff. We're talking mostly 150 to 200 mesh gold in here. Really good job. Cube did a real good job. And ran it through the multi and got a little bit more gold out of it. Not a whole bunch. Hey guys, so what I've done now is I washed out all the trays of the gold cube. I've got it all over here, and I'm just going to do a quick pan just to do a visual check on it. Okay, so here are my losses from the tailings that I ran to the gold cube. And I'm guessing that's about maybe, it looks like, I would say maybe 2 grains, something like that. Maybe 1 or 2 grains. I'll have to weigh it up though. We'll see what it comes out to. Again, I'm going to take these concentrates, repan them and rework them, make sure I get all the gold out so I have an accurate test. Hey guys, so what I'm doing now is I'm just screening. These are the concentrates from our Highbanker, and I'm just screening to make sure we don't have any big gold that influences the test. And you can see, let's get it, and you can see what I found there. So I did find some larger pieces of gold that would sort of skew the test, and I want to get those out of there. But those are pretty cool. Now that came from the material we were running. That was from the material we were running. That's pretty cool. Hey guys, it's actually early in the morning the next day. And so here's what I'm going to do now. I've got about 3 cups of what we call this black pudding. which is essentially black sands, garnets, and gold. It's real heavy. So this is like 3 pounds and it's only 3 cups of material. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to be running the multi-sluice. And the multi-sluice really is a concentrate cleaner, but I'm only going to run the last bonus step. It has 2 steps plus a bonus step. And the bonus step is you can put our washer mat, it comes with a washer mat, and you can pitch it up real high, like 13 degrees, and you can strip this super concentrate. And what you'll end up with, of course, is basically pure gold up at the top and then a little bit of black sand down at the bottom because of all the turbulence. There's a whole bunch of videos. Go watch it if you want to learn about it. But what it'll do is it'll take this 3 cups down to about 2 or 3 tablespoons of material, which is very manageable in a pan. Now, when you run this step, this unit, it comes with a 99% guarantee. If you run the first 2 steps, you'll have 99% of your gold in the unit guaranteed, period. But this step really is not about a capture rate. This step is about stripping. In other words, I want to just run extremely strong. And what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to get rid of all that black sand, or as much as possible. So I'm going to take 3 cups of just black muck, run it through this system, strip it down to about 2 or 3 tablespoons. And now that's all I have in my pan for cleanup. It just makes it so much easier. Again, problem, solution, problem, solution. That's where this multi-sluice comes in. The multi-sluice, everyone that has it in their hands says it's their favorite piece of equipment, and they've sold all their other cleanup equipment. If you don't believe me, go look around. It's great. So anyways, I'll just fire it up and I'll run it again. It's fast. This will take me 3 minutes, probably 2 or 3 minutes to run this material through here. And then if I want to take out, I've got a catch tub. If I want to take it and run it again, I can take it and run it again. So anyways, I'll run it here in a second. Here's the funny part about this system. You can see how fast this water is running in here. I mean, it's just screaming through here. We're running at about a 13-degree pitch. And the water's just screaming through here. My goal is to try and get rid of all that black sand. Not capture rates, but get rid of that black sand. You don't have to worry about floating gold in here. Don't use any jet dry. There's a reverse helix in here, so it just completely breaks all the surface tension. You can run your concentrates dry or wet, doesn't matter. All right, so then about 3 minutes. Shut her off. Now I can take my header box off, and the nice thing is this just comes right off. And just put it inside my tub down here. That way I don't have water pouring all over my garage. But now what you'll be able to see is, you'll be able to see what we're talking about. We create this huge imbalance up here. We don't want, we want to try and lose gold. Get over your fear of losing gold. Try and lose the gold. And you can see up top, there's almost no black sand sitting up in here, but there's gonna be a ton of superfine gold up here. Same thing. Now, as we go down the mat, what's gonna happen? You're gonna see a little bit less gold. That's still a lot of gold. A little bit less gold, but then you'll start to see some black sand show up. So as this starts to settle down a little bit more, you'll start to see a little bit more black sand as well too. But you can see by the time we get to the last mat, there's going to be just a few specks of gold down here. Again, the purpose of this bonus step, this is the 3rd step, is not about capture rates. Yeah, I'll probably capture 90-95% of my gold on the first run. The goal here is, how do I take 3 cups of just muck and turn that muck into 2 tablespoons? Now, if I want to, what I can do is I can actually flood this chamber. I can lift these legs up, or I can lower this, and I can flood this chamber, and I can use a sucker bottle If I want to, now I can come in with a sucker bottle and just sucker these lines out, because I'm pretty much at pure gold right in here. Rather than mixing these up with these down here, or I'll just clean this upper portion of the mat separate and put it in a pan, and then clean this lower section separate. And I'll have about a tablespoon here, the first half, and then a tablespoon down below. It's pretty cool. Well, that's pretty cool there. You can see that. I mean, I have almost no black sand anymore. Basically all I have is just gold sitting in there. Okay, so there I am. There's the contents of the entire mat. I'm about a tablespoon and a half, maybe 2 tablespoons. And it's nothing just but a little bit of black sand and then gold. And if I want to tap it, start to see that gold really show up on the side. It's almost all pure gold. Now this makes it real easy to do that final cleanup. Now I'm just getting bright yellow and bright yellow. So now I've gone from 3 cups of muck down to 2 tablespoons. That's the beauty of that stripping step. But I'm going to go in and rerun that stuff just to make sure, just to see. But you'll be able to see that it's just, there's a ton of super fine gold all in here too. All up in here that you can't even see it is just all 200, 150, 200 mesh stuff. It just looks like a little blanket. Okay, so here's the first run on the stripping mat that I did. Again, about 13 degrees. There's probably over an ounce sitting in here. Here's the second run. I dropped it down to about 11 and a half. And there's probably about 3 grains sitting in there. And then if I wanted to go back, and what I would normally do is go back and save this dirt for a winter run or pan it out just to see what's in there. Again, I'll have the majority of my gold is going to be sitting right here. I'll end up with a tablespoon or 2 here, tablespoon or 2 here. Now this is real easy just to use a sucker bottle and clean up. So again, I have black sand and gold sitting in here. Spread it out, make some green space up here. Tap the gold into the green space, spread it out again, make green space back up here. Put water over the gold, and then look for that back yellow line. That's all I'm going to take is that back yellow line. I'm not going to take any of this gold down here that has black sand in it. Make space. Make a yellow line. Put water over it. Suck out that back yellow line. And just keep repeating that. That's basically all I'm doing. Again, making that green space is so important. Otherwise that gold will pull that black sand all the way back in. Wash some of that black sand away. Get that yellow line. Just that back yellow line, that's all I want. Alright, I'm in the laboratory, better known as the kitchen. I'm going to turn on my direct vent. I've got my stainless steel gold tray, which we do sell, by the way, which is the coolest little thing to have. And you can see where I've dumped my snifter bottle, snuffer bottle. I've dumped the gold into here. I'm going to turn it on high. And I'm going to let this gold dry out, just on a regular stove. That's the nice thing about it. Now this tray will get hot, so just be careful. Again, if there's any mercury in here, all that smoke is being direct vented out of here. And that's why when you put this little tray on your stovetop, point the opening down to the direct vent. weigh her out. We got her all zeroed out here. Take my tray, now that it's cooled down a little bit, still a little warm. Well, let's go ahead and weigh it. And there we go. 36.26 grams. Pretty good. Hey guys, so I'm going to try and do this without spilling this. I spent a good hour cleaning this up. Now what I'm going to pour in here, I've got it on grains, not grams. I'm going to pour in the gold from the gold cube. This is when we ran all of our tailings into the gold cube. So 2.72 grains, not grams, grains. So let's see if I can get this thing to focus on it. So there you go. That's the total gold in our tailings after running it through the gold cube. And we're at 2.72 grains. Okay, so let's take a look at some of the results. We ran approximately 36 grams of gold, 37 grams of gold, somewhere around there. All the gold was below 20 mesh, so we're talking 30 mesh to 200 mesh gold. Over 6 grams of that gold was under 100 mesh. 92% of the gold was caught in the first 36 inches in that real turbulent, aggressive area up top. And that's what amazes both me and other people. That top area and that reverse ramp riffle really do a good job. Next, 8% of the gold was caught in the flare section. Again, everything that was down in that flare section was either very fine gold or maybe a few little flakes, flat flakes. And in the tailings, 0.5% was found in the tailings, 2.27 grains. So that's well over a 99% run. Real happy with those results. Hey guys, I hope you found some part of this testing video helpful. It's a good way to test your own equipment, just to show you what we sort of do. Join us next week, because next week I'm going to take a little bit of a break, and I'm actually going to take a break from the gold, even though we'll find some, and we're going to go gem hunting. We're going to run some of this dirt that we were actually seeing a lot of gems when we were running this dirt. I was seeing a lot of them. So you know what? I said next week, let's come up here and let's run for some gems. We're going to be running the Highbanker. We're going to find some gold, but I'm going to be looking on the lookout for some gems. So come back to our channel, check us next week, and I'll have a gem video up for you, I hope. See you then. Doc the Gold Hog.